This week's episode is brought to you by Zambak, which is Africa's premier ointment of choice. We're pretty excited. This is our second video podcast. If you haven't listened to our first podcast series, which was Women in Travel, please do go and check out the series. It's available on Apple Podcasts and on our website at inspiringafricantravel.com and wherever else you find your podcasts. While we record the second series of Inspiring African Travel, which will be local heroes in tourism, we thought it would be really good to dig into some of the destinations that we know and that we love. Today's podcast is going to be a relaxed, casual conversation. It's actually our first series of what we call Inspiring African Experiences. It's a chance for us to share what we love about the destination, and the idea as well, if we can, is give you some tips and ideas and some little known facts about the area. In order to help us, we have our trusty friend Andrew Flatt to pull into the podcast series again. Andrew, I assume you're over in South Africa. Thanks for agreeing once again to join us. How are you doing?
Yeah, agreeing is a strong word. I was told be ready to film at 3 o'clock. No, but I'm very happy to be back. All is well here in South Africa. There's great news, obviously. The world has heard. South Africa is now allowing all nationalities in. Botswana has announced border openings. Very relevant news if you're listening to this in November 2020. Otherwise, I'm doing very well, thank you. Yeah, quite predictable that the first of the Inspiring African Experiences destinations would be the Chobe Floodplains. But in all fairness, I know that we've all traveled there often a lot, spent a lot of time exploring those areas, and it's a really good place to start. So we will kick it off. Stuart, I'm going to start with you. In your career, I'm sure you have spoken to thousands of travel agents and tour operators and just generally travelers about the Chobe area and the Chobe Riverfront in particular. So why don't you start us off and explain what the Chobe Floodplains are and how you get there?
Yeah, thanks, Andrew. Thanks again for coming online and interviewing us. Chobe Floodplains, it's an amazing place. I was probably first introduced to it years ago when I worked in Botswana, but as obviously working with Desert and Delta Safaris and Chobe Game Lodge over the years, I've spent a lot of time up there. The Chobe Floodplains really it's a very beautiful area. It's an amazing section of the Chobe National Park, just not that far in from the park gates, and it's basically just a really big open floodplains, which obviously in the flood seasons mostly covered in water, but obviously as the water levels drop on the Chobe River into the drier seasons, the floodplains kind of emerge out of from the river, and they just create this magical place for people for wildlife to graze and feed. It's an incredible place. The elephant interactions and the elephant sightings along those floodplains are absolutely magical. In terms of access, it really is easy to get there. Guests, you can fly into Kasane and access the park by road, or a lot of guests come across from Victoria Falls and extend their trips into from Vic Falls across to the Chobe region and head out onto the floodplains.
Jules, when did you first experience the Chobe Floodplains? You've been traveling to Botswana for a number of years now. What was that sort of first experience like, and what did you think of it?
So the first time I came to Botswana was in December 2016 to visit, and that's where James was living at the time. So it was a very exciting experience. I remember we would go every evening after work to the floodplains and have a look, and every little thing excited me, like even just looking at the dung beetles, just rolling their dung was exciting. There was so much color. The floodplains were green because it was in the middle of the rainy season. So you had all these different shades of green. Yeah, it was just beautiful.
Not to mention the rosy-throated longclaw, which is obviously the most exciting animal to be found on the Chobe Floodplains. And we did see it when we first went out there.
Yeah.
It's quite a rare bird, and it's quite prolific out on the floodplains as soon as summer kicks in.
Yeah. I mean, well, there were loads of birds because you have all the migratory birds around at the time, so lots of color. You have your kingfishers, the cuckoos, the rollers, the common beaters.
Well, very impressed that you've turned into such a twitcher, but I guess that's only par for the course when you're married to James Wilson. James, let's throw it to you. You've been a big proponent of the Chobe Floodplains for a decade now. Some would say a cheerleader. Some would say Mr. Chobe. Depends who you're asking. Why is that? What is it about them that's so special to you, and why do you feel the need to tell people about it and to sort of educate people on this area?
Thanks, Andrew. It's a question I very much love to answer. When I have a few moments to spare up in Chobe, it's the place I go to straight away. So I used to live at Chobe Game Lodge, and the first floodplain that you can get to is Puku Flats. And it takes about 20 minutes to get there from the lodge. That last video series on our YouTube channel features all the content that we filmed from just 1 week of literally going from the lodge out to the floodplains to see what we could see. But to answer your question, why do I love it so much? Well, as Stuart said, it's accessible. But what a lot of people don't realize is that when you're in Chobe, the game viewing is really prolific when you're either on the river on a boat or just driving along the riverfront, because you've got your largest concentration of elephants on the whole planet along the Chobe riverfront. So anything around 60 to 70,000 elephants. And so they all move down to the river in these big herds, massive herds of buffalo. The lions are prolific along the Chobe riverfront, loads of other game. So it's one of the easiest places to go on a game drive, because you just drive along the river and everything is kind of coming down to the river to you, or is there before your eyes on the river. And there are a number of these floodplains along the riverfront. The first one being the Watercart floodplain, which is the easiest and closest one to get to from Kasane, the gateway. And then Puku Flats, which is close to the lodge. And then you've got Kabula Bula, Lechwe Flats, down towards Ihaha. And these floodplains most of them have a really nice network of roads on them. And most people don't make the effort to head out onto those roads. And the reason why we wanted to do this feature is on the Chobe Floodplains is because we believe it's like a destination and an ecosystem in its own right along the Chobe riverfront. And what happens is quite often you don't know what wildlife is out there on those floodplains, because there's a lot of long grass and a number of dips and depressions within these floodplains. So, I'm a massive wildlife fan, so even as Jill said, the dung beetles and the rosy-throated longclaws excite me a lot. But quite often when you head out to those floodplains, you start to encounter big herds of wildlife that you never even knew were out there. We're talking herds of 300, 400 buffalo, big herds of elephants. Sometimes you'll be surprised that there'll be lions out there. And the key is that once you head out on those network of roads, most people don't make the effort to go out there. So you move away from the other vehicles and other tourists along the riverfront, and you'll quite often find yourself in your own little space, in your own little world. And yeah, who doesn't like open grasslands? It's a real African. I always just feel the moment you're out there, you feel this is Africa, those open savannas and grasslands. And right now you've got summer storms rolling in and colors and greenery, like Julia was saying. And then in the dry season, in June, July, August, September, you have harsh golden colors from the grass and lots of dusts and big herds of elephants, and it's dramatic. So I hope that in a nutshell answers why I love the Chobe floodplain so much, and why we wanted to feature it on this podcast, is to give people a little opportunity to learn a bit about them, where to get to them from, and why you should head out there.
Yeah, I think you made a very good point to say it's a destination in its own right, and what I think is, from my point of view, the way it's very important to get the message across is that this is a destination within a destination. You know, the Chobe River front and the Chobe National Park are such renowned areas for wildlife and for the landscapes, and the accessibility is huge. But to be able to say, hey, there's somewhere you can sneak away and get to within this destination itself, that's really cool.
Well, I love the green season in Botswana for many reasons. First, as I mentioned earlier, it's just full of song and color. With all the migratory birds, with just the different shades of green. The animals look much healthier because they have so much to graze on. You have little ones, so you have all the impalas having their offspring. It's just, they all look so happy. Like if you look at the ellies, it's almost like they have a smile on the side of their face, so just all that. I think it's such a beautiful time to come and visit. When you look at the skyline, it's full of drama, with the thunderstorms and stuff and the cloud formations. So your sunsets and sunrises are just epic.
And literally it is the happy season. So that's the green season, which is our summer. And that runs from around about now, November or December, all the way through January, February, March, and into the beginning of April. A lot of the misconceptions I think people have is that if they come to Chobe that time of year, the Chobe floodplains won't be prolific in terms of numbers of elephants and wildlife. Although there are less dramatic herds during the green season, they actually they're still there in big numbers. And because there's lots of mud, they're splashing themselves with mud, they're enjoying those rich grasses out on the floodplain, and there's lots of wildflowers out there. So photography wise, amazing. One of my favorite photos we took when you were out there, there's a shot of this elephant with some flowers and some beautiful colors in the sky. You're nodding, Andrew, you know the shot. Yeah. I like it as well.
Yeah. But even if you don't see much, just actually the adventure of going in and looking for these animals and finding them is so rewarding. So it just makes for an exciting experience, really.
And plus there's, even without going out onto the floodplains, there's so few travelers out around during the green season that we've done many a drive where in January or February where you go out for the day and you don't see one single other vehicle for the whole afternoon. So really cool. And then shoulder season starts around April, May, June. The rains stop, and as the rain stops, so the surface water dries up, so more and more animals are moving down to the river. But what happens as well is that during March, April, May, the Chobe River has completely swelled up, and almost all the Chobe floodplains will be entirely underwater, especially last year when we had big floods. The only way to experience the Chobe floodplains theoretically around about March, April and May during the shoulder season will be on top of them on a boat. So that's how much the floodplains transform. So I get a bit sad and nostalgic when the floodplains disappear, but of course that is why they are floodplains. So a lot of that water is actually coming from the Zambezi River, flooding across the Caprivi or the Zambezi region floodplains and into the Chobe. And then the waters drop really quickly. And so suddenly around about end of May, June, July, those floodplains all become exposed. And with it, the water birds follow that receding waterline as it goes down, and they have an absolute field day. Because they're picking up all the mollusks and the exposed fish and the crabs, and they go berserk. So you have flocks and flocks of white-faced ducks and herons and storks and you name it. So the birding just goes explodes the water birds along the river. And then the dry season kicks in. So those grasses then grow from those floodplains on the Chobe Floodplains, and then it becomes a haven for all the big game who are coming out from the very, very dry Botswana Chobe National Park and are desperate to feed off those grasses, those rich grasses. So during July, August, September, exploding with life once again. So when is the best time to go out into the Chobe Floodplains? Well, difficult to say. You take your pick, which you prefer.
Stuart, we are going to throw something your way now with your helper. Talk us through the best way to experience the Chobe Floodplains. In fact, I want to hear it from Aiden.
Aiden's been on the Chobe Floodplains. He was, no, not the floodplains. He spent some quality time on the boat. Bye, boy.
I'm going on the boat, Nene. I'm going on the boat.
Shame. For me, certainly the best way to experience it, and if I just think back to my first experience on the floodplains, also was with you, James, in 2014, when we literally just, we packed a cooler bag of some beers, grabbed our cameras, fully charged, ready to go, and we literally drove out onto the Puku Flats, parked the car in front of some water, and just literally sat and watched and just waited for everything to kind of come to us. And that for me is the best way to experience the Puku Flats. It's not about driving around and trying to actively seek out big game and all of that stuff. It's about just sitting and being in one space and just allowing whatever the Puku Flats has to offer to literally come to you. I mean, that time we spent there in 2014 on those floodplains was phenomenal. And just standing or sitting in the vehicle and just literally watching as hundreds of elephants roam through the grassland area and just drinking water and sitting down and just taking photograph after photograph of these incredible experiences as they unfold in front of you. That certainly for me is what the Chobe Floodplains is all about. It's definitely not about trying to get out there and chase after big stuff. You just literally let it unfold and you kind of take it in, and that's actually when you experience Africa as what it really is and what it should be. You just kind of take in those moments and enjoy it for what it is. Just don't forget the beers or the wine or whatever it is you drink, because it's magical out there.
Stuart, I'm going to ask you to give me a quick summary of your favorite experiences and what you would do if you could be sent to the Chobe Floodplains right now.
If I was right there right now, I'd just literally jump in a vehicle and go and find a spot on the floodplains, probably the Puku Flats, one of my favorites. I'd just go and sit there and just sit there quietly and wait to see what comes my way.
Jules, same question to you.
Favorite experience, that's a tough one, because every season and every time you go to the floodplains, it's different. But I would just say, I just love that when you go onto the floodplains, just seeing how the ellies are so relaxed and they come up so close. I've never actually seen it before, where they come and you almost feel like you can touch them, and just being surrounded by them is usually quite exciting, and I enjoy that.
It happened last time. We had one come right up to the vehicle.
You feel like they're almost going to touch you. And that's one of my favorite things on the Chobe Floodplains.
James, come on, give us your answer. We know that you've been dying to tell us what your favorite Chobe Floodplain experience is.
Yeah, that's really tough, Andrew. And I actually have nothing prepared, even though this video that we've been planning to record for so long. So off the bat, I'm going to go with a green season experience, since it's green season now and coming into summer. And I'll openly admit I got quite badly stuck out on the floodplain. So the rains had been quite significant, and I was on my way to find the black kukal, which is a really cute bird. It's a black kukal, which is it makes a very gentle sound, and I picked it up. It's a whoop 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 whoop, and it was quite far on the other side of the floodplain. So I thought, I can definitely get there through this mud, and I got stuck. And fortunately, a friend of mine, Rex Kelly, had one of his vehicles with guests going past, and they pulled me out. And very, very, very fortunately, once they left me there. The black cuckoo found me, so that was really cool. It was beautiful green. It was rainy, and it's, for me, that is something that's quite special.
So one other tip is ask your guide to take you to the Puku Flats stretch point, and it's such a cool area because you can just take your cooler box there. You have the view of the river, the Chobe River, and the floodplains, and it's actually quite nice because you can also see the ellies coming from the river and back onto the floodplains, and lots and lots of water birds there. So,
considering I'm running the show today, I'm going to share my experience whether you guys ask or not. I think the one experience I love the most about the Chobe Floodplains, and if I could be there right now, what I'd want to be doing is actually from the water. I think there's just something so magical about being on a boat, being on the water, and approaching these floodplains, these massive, beautiful, expansive, open grasslands, and having wildlife come across them seemingly to you. It almost feels like you've arrived and everyone's come to greet you. I just love that feeling of floating up and watching the tree line in the distance, and then you see a herd of elephants come through and they're all just trudging down to the water to get that first or last drink of the day, and you just sit while all of this it feels like it's happening to you. It's just right in your face, and it's just the most magical experience because you don't feel like you're intruding, you don't feel like there's any sort of animosity between the boat and the animal. It's just this pure feeling of joy, and that experience is, you can't put it in words really, and I really like that. And I think that's also the lovely thing about the Chobe Floodplains. You can experience that, land-based experience, the water-based experience, a lodge-based experience as well. For instance, a Chobe Savannah Lodge, you've got that exact feeling looking across the water as the animals come. I think it's very special. Just my 2 cents. Anyway, team, right. What is in store for Inspiring African Travel next? We've had the first series, which was just fantastic, Women in Travel. We've now had Inspiring African Experiences, which I'm hoping will continue a little bit. What's in store next?
Yes, we've enjoyed it a lot, but we realize it's quite a lot of work. So, and especially when we're hooking up with Stu and SA and stuff like that. So that's why we decided to do it in series. So series 2 of Inspiring African Travel will be Local Heroes, and we've recorded half of the episodes already. So there'll be 7 episodes, and some great people. We've got one of the legends of the Okavango Delta, an amazing lady from Zimbabwe who has just a phenomenal story to tell about growing up in Zim and through all the hardships and becoming one of the leading community empowerment ladies. And a great guy from South Africa also who's starting a new game reserve in KwaZulu-Natal. So some amazing people. Can't wait to share that. So that'll be ready, the first episode towards the end of November, we think. And then Inspiring African Experiences will carry on doing it in between series. So next up, Stu and I thought we'd dig into KwaZulu-Natal, which is a place in South Africa we love dearly. And we both grew up there, and Stuart lived there after school. And it's such a diverse province of South Africa, and so much to it, from oceans to coastal forests to mountains to historic culture.
So just to jump in there on the KZN thing, it's going to be quite cool. It's going to be unique because it's like James said, it's what's really awesome about KZN or KwaZulu-Natal is that it's really a destination in one. So from our time living down there, we just loved going up to the coast, going into the wildlife regions or into the mountains and so on. So there's lots of really cool, exciting stories to share. Sue will no doubt have lots to say about KZN. She's a big fan. And then we've also got some really cool guys that we're going to interview about the game reserves, the beaches and everything that's going on there. So yeah, they look after that one. That one's going to be really good.
Awesome. Guys, again, thank you so much for inviting me and letting me grill you with my questions. I hope that we've shared some really good information pockets. If there's anything to take from this that I can think of, it's go to the Chobe Floodplains whenever, wherever sort of thing. But we really appreciate all the work you guys are doing. Obviously, to be able to share this with the world is fantastic. There's a lot of people who take great value from your podcast and hopefully from these video sessions as well. Why don't you all just give us a little last taste of Chobe and what to keep an eye out for, and then say cheers.
What is one last thing about Chobe? Yes. I can say something more. I can say one more thing.
Go for it. Just for James, we'll let him say.
Well, my tip for the Chobe Floodplains: make an effort. Go out there. If you don't see anything out on the floodplains, drive across that road onto the floodplains. I guarantee you'll be treated with something special. But if you see a silver Prado Land Cruiser in the distance, just leave me alone there. I'm following the game and the wildlife there, so leave me in peace if you don't mind. Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody, and see you next time.
Thanks a lot, guys.